super happy to introduce our presenter today. I am a recent joiner at Columbia CraftCycle Collective to join their board, and I'm happy to be there. I love this mission, I love what's going on, and I think it's super important for Columbia, and it's a model of things for a much wider audience, not just for Columbia. So proving things in practice, I think, is going to be super important. So we'll turn it over to Lisa Groshong. We're happy to have you here.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you so much. This is so exciting. Yeah, and it's great to have an actual board member here to give us the seal of approval. And yeah, thanks so much for being here. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Como CraftCycle and then kind of where it started, where we are now, and where we would like to go. So hopefully I'm going in the right direction. So for me, Como CraftCycle really started when I joined the Peace Corps and went to Zambia with my husband Trevor in 2008. And I was assigned to be an education volunteer. And I very quickly learned that having a lot of education does not necessarily equate to being able to be an education development worker. This may not surprise anyone but me, but it was a little disappointing, and I was kind of floundering for a while at the beginning until Elizabeth Mbewe showed up at my door. And she ran a women's co-op in a little village called Musalila, which means you must not cry, up in the hills near where we lived. And she had this pretty successful little co-op growing pigs and doing some stuff like that. Where we were living in Zambia, way out in the bush, there's really not a cash economy at all, and women especially don't have access to cash. They're typically raising lots of children, doing a kitchen garden to feed those children, and that's about it. A lot of them don't ever really go far from their villages at all. So access to cash is very limited, but of course everybody needs a little bit of cash, right? So she asked me, "You're Peace Corps, what can you do?" And I was like, oh shit, I don't know. So I went up and talked to the group of women. They were super enthusiastic, had a lot of energy, really wanted to do some stuff. And so we did kind of a needs assessment and a skills assessment. What do you have? What do we have access to? Everybody there, the women all know how to crochet. They make these little outfits for their poor hot babies. You know, it's freaking hot there. These poor babies are all swaddled up. So they knew how to crochet. A lot of them knew how to hand sew. Unfortunately, there's no Michael's, there's no Walmart, there's no supplies. They have no money to buy it, even if there was anything. They don't even have a recycling bin to dig through. You know, like you would tell an impoverished classroom here, just go to the recycling bin, let's see what we can find. There's none of that. There's no trash because they don't buy anything because there's no money. So we kind of figured out what we could do. They had access to some fabric, like old clothing and stuff, and they could get scraps from tailors for nothing. And I had a guy, I took a crochet hook, a big crochet hook from here to a guy in another village and had him whittle some out of sticks. So that's kind of where we started from. We got some sewing stuff. And so they were able to make these rugs. So it was using the same skills they had, but just kind of on a bigger scale. That was new to them. And then I taught them how to do crazy quilting. And so here's an example of one of the pouches that they made out of just, you know, scraps from the tailor that would have gotten thrown away. So that was such a great feeling to me, to be able to do something that really, you know, gave them some ideas and gave them some hope. And actually they were able to sell some of the stuff that they made. They made a little bit of money. You know, even $5 for them is really significant. So when I came back to the US, my mind was really attuned to this idea of reuse. And I started seeing all around me all these examples, because creative reuse is something that's really common in the US as well, right? Everything from these crazy used CD sculptures or mobiles hanging at the record store to mosaics and twined rugs, which I'll tell you about the class we're doing, and even dubious things like the pantyhose craft book, which thank God people don't wear pantyhose anymore, so that has kind of died out. I also noticed though how much just abundance there is. You know, part of this is I had to move several times to Peace Corps and back and filled his basement up with just all this crap, which probably half of it was craft supplies, right? And so I just realized, God, there's so much stuff out there, and a lot of it ends up in the landfill, right? Because you use half of something, you do a project, you start it, you get all excited, and then the materials just sit around forever. So around this time when I came back to the US, I went back to school, a little bit more education, and ended up in Kansas City working there, and there I started volunteering at Scraps KC, which is an incredible, has anybody been to Scraps KC? Oh my gosh. If you're ever to Kansas City, if you're into this sort of thing, it's a huge creative reuse store off of Southwest Boulevard that sells all manner of fabric and just everything you can think of. Not just craft supplies, but things that could be used to make things. So lots of like industrial waste, things that could be repurposed into other things. Just a wonderland of supplies. And it really inspired me to think, God, that would be so cool to do that in Columbia. So I moved there during the pandemic, and of course, the pandemic happened. We came back to Columbia, and just by chance, my friend Ashley, who's here on the left, who was in Peace Corps with me in Zambia, I had lured her back to Columbia, and she was living down the street, and we started dog walking together, like all the time. And during some of those walks, she had come to see me in Kansas City, and we'd gone to Scraps together, and we just were talking about, God, wouldn't it be so cool if we had something like that in Columbia? She's an artist, a ceramic artist, and was an art teacher at Grant. We just started talking about, like, we've got all this stuff, we know all these people, there's all this stuff in Columbia, wouldn't it be fantastic? So, next thing you know, we started it in her garage. So, we went to Kansas City. Sorry, I should have switched these two slides around. After we started in the garage, but I'll go to the next one and come back. We started in her garage. And you can see by the picture, everybody's wearing a coat. There's definitely limitations to having a creative reuse center in someone's garage in Missouri. So that was a little dicey, but the cool thing is it introduced us to some people, including Casey Hammock. So what we tried to do, we thought this is such a great idea. We did a listening tour of lots of arts nonprofits in town. We were hoping that one of them would say, this is a great idea, we'll do it. You can imagine, that didn't happen. They said, that's a great idea, you should totally do it. Shit. So, but during that listening tour, Kelsey at the Art League introduced us to Casey, who owns Partner for Better, who joined our board and helped us write the nonprofit paperwork, so we're officially a nonprofit. And she also introduced us to Habitat. So anyway, I'm gonna go back for just 1 second. Also, we went to Scraps KC, and they are so fantastic. That's the executive director and founder of Scraps KC. She spent 2 entire days with us, telling us everything we know. Said you can have anything, we have any document, anything you need, we're here to help. So she's been unbelievably fantastic. Because people who do this want this to happen, right? We want it to be everywhere. So Casey led us to Habitat, which led to us opening a space at Habitat. Has anybody been to our space at Habitat? Jay has. Oh, well, please, as soon as you leave here, wait until 5 more minutes, but as soon as we leave here, go over to Habitat. They're open from 8:30 to 5, or 8:30 to 4, Tuesday through Saturday. So we have a little store. It's probably the size of one of those offices in the back corner of Habitat. We call it the boutique. We're selling fabric and all kinds of crafty stuff. So we have our little store. It's doing amazing. In fact, we met with them yesterday, and they said, we can't believe how great this partnership has been. We've been paying them a percentage of our profits, which is way more than they would have gotten for that junky little corner that they had before. They love having us there, but they can already see that we are bursting at the seams and could easily move onto our own space. So it's been going fantastic. And we also have other stuff going on. We've been doing community events like Earth Day, Zipperfest. We'll be at True False. We've got classes. We've done a couple classes with City of Refuge, rug twining there with refugee women. Tina did a mending class. We've got a twining class coming up. And then we're also selling some of our higher end beads. We got an amazing donation of really fancy vintage and semi-precious beads. We're selling those at Blue Stem. So there's so much going on, so much potential, obviously so much excitement. It's partly coffee, but we could just grow exponentially. The problem is, of course, limited capacity. As you know, we are a volunteer, almost entirely volunteer. I am the employee, and I work I'm paid to work about 15 hours a week, but I'm sure you know what that really looks like. So we have limited capacity. We would love to just keep growing and growing, but how do we do that without burning out our board of directors, our volunteers, and our staff? And then what are we overlooking in terms of partnerships? Who else can we partner with? We've already talked about Habitat, City of Refuge, Blue Stem, some other organizations, but what else? What else do we not know about that we could tap into? So that's what I would love to hear from you. And I'll just put our information up. Oh, kind of jumbled a little bit there. We are ComoCraftCycle.org and all the socials at ComoCraftCycle. So yeah, I would love to
Perfect.
hear.
Awesome.
Did I make
Good
it?
job. Good
Close
job.
up?
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Very well. Very well. All right, we'll start here.
Heather, I'm with the Callaway Bank. I am a ridiculously crafty person, so I love all of this because
Yay.
I have all the tubs with stuff that isn't enough to do something, but I have to go to Hobby Lobby and buy more stuff in order to do that, which means I have more stuff. So I love this idea. In terms of reaching out to people, honestly, I would just get on Facebook and just say, hey, tag the person who you know who makes wreaths or makes jewelry or makes all of these different crafts or makes flower arrangements.
Yeah.
Because every single one of those people has a tub with the stuff that didn't get used.
Oh yeah.
Like, I mean, I have so much stuff that I mean, are you there now? Because I will go take it down.
This
Like,
afternoon, 2 to 5.
but I also think that, like, my mother's the same way, and my mom's got tubs of like partial flower things.
Yeah.
I mean, it's literally the size of like the entire wall back there for
Oh, yeah.
stuff. She's gonna use it someday.
Yeah.
You know?
We're all gonna use it someday.
So, but I'm thinking in terms of, I love my mother, I love her around forever. Someday, you're gonna get all of it.
We get a lot
So,
of that, yeah.
but I
Mom
mean, in
died,
terms
or
of-
mother-in-law died, or aunt died, and they, yeah. And they're like freaking out, because they're
But
like,
how
what do
does
we do with
one
all this?
share that?
Yeah.
To be able to say, you know what, Mom, you don't have to throw it away, it's not gonna get thrown away,
Yeah.
it's gonna get used by somebody. You don't need those 4 flowers of the 400, we're gonna get rid of those 4 flowers and someone's gonna use them.
Yeah,
You know, so we're gonna talk after.
I love it. Scott?
Lisa, first off, we're recording, so you don't have to take notes, you can pay
Oh,
attention
okay.
to everything,
Okay.
so that'll make it easy to
The
hear
old
the
habits
idea.
die hard.
Have you reached out to like art classes, art, access arts, different places around here to let them know what you're doing and what's available, and also ask them for volunteers?
Absolutely. Access has been Sarah Catlin, who runs Access, has been a huge supporter. She's one of the people we were hoping would take this on, and she was like, you're crazy. She's got plenty going on, but yeah, definitely we've put the word out to all the arts organization. We're starting to get a lot of their kind of leftover stuff. In fact, I think the Southern Boone County Public Library is gonna try to bring me a carload of stuff this afternoon that they do a craft swap and bring stuff. So yeah, definitely, but if you think of any other arts organizations that we're not aware of.
Well, some of the things you might be able to work something out for getting volunteers, students getting credit for doing this,
Oh,
whether it's
that's
at
a
the
good idea.
university or CPS, and I'll give you some names
Yeah,
afterwards.
awesome.
I am a mom that is not crafty. I hate, like, the idea is great and then implementation is terrible. My kids are very crafty. So like, and maybe this is with your classes, but like, is there a place where it's like, we're going on Saturday and you can do whatever? And we take the craft home, but not everything else. Like,
Right.
are the classes that, or talk about
Leave
the
the
classes
glitter
that
with
you have?
us.
Yes.
Yeah.
We should call it that.
Right. We have a lot of t-shirt ideas. One is, somebody will buy it. At this point, we don't have space for classes. We're partnering with other people to do classes. And so the twining class that's happening October 18th and 25th is at Habitat. And that's a super cool partnership too, because they have a volunteer who's helping us teach woodworking, basic woodworking skills to build a loom and then twine on the loom the following week. So we do have the capacities to do classes in other people's spaces, but when we do have our own space, that's the hope, that we will have a classroom. At this point, we're focusing more on adult classes because there are so many organizations like Columbia Art League and Access that do kids stuff, but definitely reach out to them because I know there are classes like that around that you can make a mess at somebody else's house. Yeah.
When it comes to not burning out your team and volunteers, what are you guys doing for systems and processes? Like, what does your back end of the business look like?
I don't even know what you're talking about, so I guess that answers your question.
That's what I do for a living, and I'd be happy to have a meeting with you and just chat. I know like Google Workspace offers free or discounted subscriptions for nonprofits. So that might be something, like sometimes it's just a matter of having like an organized folder structure that volunteers can get into, using forms instead of like having people
That
contact
we do
you.
have, yeah.
Little things like that would be like little low-hanging fruit items.
There,
that I'll drop
there
my
is a
card.
nonprofit back end that Casey has
We
us
are
plugged
into-
into.
Okay, good.
So, but and it's kind of a clone of that, but it's yeah.
I'm sure there's more we could be doing.
Yeah,
Sure.
we can have a free meeting and I'll just chat with you and give you ideas.
I'll go back here. Did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I was, question, kind of following with that, maybe I missed it. What is right now the most pressing problem? Is it space limitations? Is it kind of like organizing staff? Is it flow of materials in and out? And then the other, so a second clarified question, like as far as resource and again, maybe I missed it, but is it where you gather items and then they go overseas, they create them and then it comes back, or like I just kind of missed some of that, or is this all completely local?
It's all completely local, yeah. So I would say, so to answer your first question, yes, it's all those things. So I think we're at that inflection point where we have this, part-time person and a volunteer board and the space at Habitat, and we have a sorting facility over on Garth due to a generous benefactor. And so we're at that point where there's so much energy and excitement about it, and we need to take that next step, and I think we could easily fill a space and do all that, but capital-wise, like we're kind of in this pattern where we have this tiny little space at Habitat, we can only sell that much stuff at a time. If we had a bigger space, we could sell enough, I think, to be sustaining, but it's just getting to that point, like how do we get, we're not a for-profit business that can go to the bank and get, a loan to take that next step, so figuring out how to kind of bootstrap that as a nonprofit is, if you have ideas, we would love to.
I'm gonna go DC and then I'll work
He
my
said
way
his
back to
hand
California.
up.
I don't care about that guy. I don't care about that guy.
Breaking my heart here. Okay.
So you mentioned City of Refuge.
Yes.
I know they just acquired the building.
Yep.
Have you talked to them about additional space, and would you partner, are you concerned about just partnering with Habitat, or would you be open to other nonprofits?
We'd love to talk to other people, and City of Refuge has been bringing us their overflow materials because they're so overstuffed. Yeah, they were another group we hoped would adopt us, and but they also laughed really hard when we suggested that. So I think their building is full already of their programs. Yeah, and they actually are so squeezed because they're doing so much too that they've been bringing us their stuff. But yeah, I would love that. Yeah, if you other adoption ideas, I'm here for it.
DJ.
I think a good partnership would be if you talk to like the Black and Gold auctions or Atterbury auctions, because they're doing the estate sales.
Yes.
But some of the stuff you have would probably not go, and I'm sure they're just like putting it in the dumpster.
Exactly, yeah. We actually, that's been on my to-do list for a long time, because I actually did talk when Jeffrey, right, did the estate sale for when my brother moved out of our family house, and he said that they could probably pass stuff to me, so yeah, that's a great reminder to get on all those lists. Because I'm sure that's true, they have all this stuff and they're like, what is this crap? Yeah, what do we do with that? We'll take it.
So we actually just had a faculty meeting about your space on Monday.
Oh.
Because we have a loop office, and we'd like to have,
Yes.
the loop is kind of turning into a makers-like area, and so we have a loop office there that we would be, we want to open up to you to be able to come in and you do classes with.
Oh,
So this would be like after office hours, so anytime after 5 or on the weekends. I know somebody's going to be reaching out to you in the next couple of days about it, because we just talked about it on Monday.
Breaking news.
Yeah, that's fantastic to hear.
Yeah,
Well, 'cause
exactly.
Carrie Gardner is one of the people that we talked to early on, also hoping that she would know, this is like the holy grail, right? Like, Carrie would know about some little warehouse space that was available for
and
free.
she already had like a ton of ideas going through her head, but in the
And she's
meantime,
been so supportive.
while you're looking for classroom space,
That's fantastic.
we would like to offer, the loop office for you to be
That
able
would
to
be
come
great.
in and
We
do
could use that
classes.
for board meetings too, which would be
So,
fantastic.
yeah.
Yay.
Scott, and then we'll come here.
What about getting an old school bus and making like a craft mobile that you could then take
Oh.
to, Boone Electric or places where they could have classes, that way you could go to places like the farmer's market or whatever with some setup, and you probably could go.
Like a bookmobile.
Yeah.
Or like the gym bus.
The STEM Alliance has the
That
bus
would
as
be
well.
so
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah,
Oh my
that would be
God.
great.
I don't think he has his bus anymore, but.
If you get to a point that you're taking volunteers for classes, I own Midwest Paradise Freeze Dried Candy, and I go through hundreds of bags of candy a week.
Oh.
And I don't want to throw all that in a dumpster. So I take like
What?
those bags and I make bracelets, I make keychains.
You
I
throw away
take-
the candy and keep the bags?
Well, I use the candy for the I reuse all the bags and I make coin purses
Oh my
and
God,
things
that's
like
so
that.
cool.
And then we'll sell them at like farmers market stuff, and then we donate back to like Sierra Club or a different environmental
Oh my
organization.
God, That's so cool.
because of how much garbage we have from our
Yeah.
business, and I don't wanna throw it away.
Wow.
So I'd love to show people how to use food
I
bags
need your
to make
information.
stuff.
Perfect, that's great.
Well, I don't know how much of this exists in this community, but have you partnered and talked to stay-at-home mom groups or homeschooling groups?
We haven't. Again, we're kind of focusing more on adult stuff right now because there
Well,
is
those moms
so
have
much.
tons of stuff.
But yeah,
so
the
they're doing
moms. Oh
crafts.
yeah.
Cause I have a
That's
lot
good
of
idea.
that in my community.
Yeah.
So I just wondered if, and then I might have missed it. What's your mission? Like, what do you contribute? Like, is this nonprofit? So what are
Yes.
you supporting? What's your
Yeah,
mission?
so right now it's going back into the business, obviously, but our big mission is keeping this stuff out of the landfill. And so that is in terms of actually physically like collecting it and reselling it, but also educating people. So giving people ideas about what to do with all those pieces. And hopefully at some point we'll be big enough that we can expand beyond just craft materials into all sorts of things that are getting landfilled. Also, really just inspiring people. So if part of it is building the skills. So like, how do I like make a skirt out of my old t-shirts, or how do I just do this thing? And then also getting people together and inspiring them to make stuff in the moment, because obviously education isn't enough when it comes to behavior change. There has to be kind of a mechanism in place to just get people actually active doing the thing so they know they can really do it. Because most crafters are like me. They buy the stuff, they organize it, they play with it, and they look at it, but a lot of times you do more of that, the curating part, than the actual making the stuff. And so that's kind of one of our huge goals, like stop hoarding this stuff and like actually make something with it. And so like demystifying that part of it, like let's just get it out and like mess it up.
I think it's important for our youth in that mid-range of 20s to
Yeah.
create a different mindset.
For sure.
And so like the Halo Foundation, when they're working with those girls and teaching them life skills, I think that would be a good opportunity.
Yeah.
Great. Like I was gonna call on you earlier, there's been a lot of mentions of estate stuff happening. Is there a way for people to give in estates that would be like to note something like a nonprofit that they want all their stuff specifically to go, so it wouldn't have to be tracking down through an estate sale or tracking down through other mechanisms?
I would say definitely. I mean, from estate planning, somebody could identify your organization as the destination for their physical items. The reason my hand up was that my mother and grandmother were crafters. It sounds like maybe one of the challenges that you might run into or are is the same thing that crafters do, is you don't really have a pipeline for things to get out the door. That you might actually end up accumulating and kind of organizing the hoarding.
Right.
In a nonprofit way, and maybe focusing some of that time on getting, whether it's end user or product or whatever, it seems like you're gonna have a lot of material on your hands very quickly if you don't already, and warehousing is very expensive, and so having that pipeline of it getting out the door might be a better focus for.
Bless you. And that's exactly why we do have that Habitat store, and we are churning stuff through it as fast as we can. One thing we've done in the last month or so is we have so many volunteers who just love what we're doing and really want to help. And unfortunately, we don't even have the capacity to involve all of them just because we have such limited hours. But we do have a team of people who are going to the Habitat store 3 times a week and reloading and organizing, merchandising the stuff. So that's really helped getting the stuff through. It's amazing how fast things are selling. But yet we do have kind of a bottleneck, and that's why a bigger space would be fantastic.
Yeah.
We do have a garage sale coming up on October 4th. If you're interested, we're gonna try to unload a bunch of fabric and big stuff all at once, because we do have that problem. Our space gets so stuffed. And we've talked about, what do we do to kind of keep it a little bit more even? And we've talked about, like, do we pause donations? Do we make it harder for people to donate? But I'm reluctant to do that because I know there is so much stuff that people have, and I know that, like, for me, like, if you're driving around with a carload of stuff and you really want to get rid of it and we're closed, you're going to take it somewhere else that's going to dump it. So we really want to make it easy and possible for people to bring us that stuff. So yeah, that is definitely the pipeline of not being a bottleneck is hard. That's the hardest thing, I think.
Kristen, do you know anything about processes?
Tom.
So it sounds like you have a pretty good partnership with Habitat right now. I know because when my friends did the Habitat to possibly build you a space and have your volunteers and yourself help build that space so you can have everything that you need in one space.
So, as luck would have it, yes, kind of. Habitat currently does not have an executive director, so with the previous executive director, when we first started this partnership back in April, we were kind of spitballing about different ideas and kind of like a wish list of maybes for the future. They do own the property next to where they are currently, and if we could maybe do a capital campaign, the possibility exists that we could maybe build an additional space and then share that. We found with Habitat, it's such a great and natural partnership because, we're doing, our missions are different. They're building houses and we're doing this environmental, but really the selling things, it's so well aligned, and it's been a great partnership in terms of the clientele. One kind of unanticipated benefit is, Habitat, the Restore is kind of a guy-ish sort of store, but a lot of older couples come in, and we've noticed that now there's a lot of couples and the wife is like, hey, let's go do that. And then so it's kind of a cool, that's been a cool partnership. But yeah, hopefully, that would be a great dream to build on. We wouldn't personally do it, but.
I'm gonna work my way back around. Aaron and then Jody.
So just piggybacking a little off what Blake said, maybe if you know how much you're gonna be over for a month, you can use this horde of volunteers that you have to have like a craft-a-thon, and you can make videos and stuff out of that as a promotional item.
I like
And they can either keep them or sell them themselves.
I like
And
that.
turn them into entrepreneurs themselves.
And it builds content. I like it. Jody?
Yeah.
Yeah, a few things. First of all, I think you might already be headed towards franchising, and suppose someone has, say, a few, or maybe a garage full of like 1940s era ladies' home journal, paper ephemera, stuff like that. Are you interested in those things?
That sounds like more than we would have the capacity to take on right now. But
Okay.
it sounds amazing.
And I think it'd be great if you just introduced your silent partner over here.
Oh, he introduced himself.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm
my
her
dad.
father.
That's
I
my
know.
dad.
Bernie Andrews, we're presence of greatness. Hey, Bernie. We're gonna skip over DJ again, and then we'll come back to DJ.
Okay, I have just a couple of quick things. First, you talk to Michael's because they have a very robust craft club that they do where they probably have a lot of extras things. They also have the capacity to possibly work with you on creating your own classes and your own things just in partnership with them because they have all kinds of stuff. Second, love the skirt. I knew immediately that it had an African relationship. I grew up in Africa and we used to make stuff just like this. So t-shirt clubs with like the guys that have the drawers full of t-shirts. Let's make the t-shirt blankets. Let's get that stuff out of your house. Third, if you all start putting videos on Facebook that people can share of how to do some of these things, how to link back, how to get in touch with you on things like that. And then the last one is partner up with some businesses, maybe do crafts and cocktails. They're bored out of their minds on Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays. Crafts and cocktails, bring your craft, come to this place. They're gonna do some specials. I own a bar. I already think this sounds like a great idea. So let's circle up.
Oh, that sounds fun.
Crafts and craft cocktails.
Crafts and crafts, yeah.
All right. Okay, DJ. All right.
I don't know if this exists, but is there any kind of like art gallery for like the finished products? And if not, I'm wondering if you could make like a fundraiser out of that where people create a lot of these things and then have a live auction and raise money for the.
It's like you read my mind.
I mean, stay tuned for True False.
All right.
Stay tuned for True
Yeah,
False.
so on October 7th, we'll be opening entries for our first art show. So the show will be using reused materials. People will buy a bag of stuff from that's gotten donated to us. And then we'll have a show at the Art League in the South Gallery through the month of March 2026. And then they'll be happening during True False. Well, True False will be happening during that month. And so we'll have some programming that we'll be doing around that to kind of also encourage people, including t-shirts. One thing I'm hoping to do is embellish people's True False t-shirts. Let them come in and like do some of this kind of like adding designs onto it. But yeah, definitely showing some of the cool stuff that people have made. And when we get a space, that would be fantastic to be able to show
Yeah.
the cool.
Yeah, 'cause I
amazing
think it'll help
things.
raise money, but also inspire others.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, and the stuff that people show in the show will be for sale, and part of the money will come to us.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Amanda.
Okay, forgive me if I'm not, because I talked about classes earlier and a couple
Yep.
people have. That doesn't seem like that's your issue though. It's really the bottom line that you need money to have a bigger space so you can house your stuff and have people come in and shop.
I think that's fair.
It's okay to ask, it's okay. Yeah. But like, would that really help solve, because then you would have your volunteers would have their times
Yeah.
to do it. They could potentially have office hours if they were
Mhm.
fine not getting paid. Like my mother-in-law is retired, but she likes to do things and meet people.
Yeah.
So like, if it's people like that that wanna work a 2-hour, 3-hour chunk, they can run the store while you're there or while you're not there. But it sounds like more that it's like, you need the money to have the space.
Yeah.
And not as much, you need the stuff, like you have the
Oh, we
stuff.
have
I mean,
stuff, yeah.
You have
We have
stuff,
stuff,
but it's more
yeah.
of a space, that it's like, if it's more about like having a big fundraising campaign that helps you get a space, or be able to partner with somebody and pay something, but there's
Mhm.
plenty, I would think, of businesses here that have a certain amount of space that you could run it and grow out of and as you go, but it sounds more like a big fundraising campaign to be able to find a space to do what you're already doing.
Yeah, I think the stuff intake is happening
Yeah,
at a
for
scale
sure.
that's
Yeah.
solid. The people intake feels bottlenecked,
Right.
and then the product output feels bottlenecked. So it's opening up those two bottlenecks to the public facing part,
Right.
so that that big intake behind the scenes can actually start churning, can actually start
Yeah,
doing that, and then the mission of keeping it out of the landfill
right.
can come front and center, and we can
Yeah.
really show off, if that makes sense, like.
Yeah, cause I think all of the ideas are great, but that's really not what you need. Like, you need money to find a space.
That pretty much was.
Partnerships.
Yeah.
Partnerships and money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Space.
Okay.
DW.
The other connection or partnership, I don't know if you've talked to her about like the clean refill is
Yes.
sustainability. I'm sure you've met with her. That's
She's
great.
fantastic, and she's been very supportive and enthusiastic and helpful. We're working on a grant to the Solid Waste Management District, and she's
Mhm.
successfully done that, so
Nice.
she's been really helpful in helping us think that through.
DW.
So have you thought about, so cash is the big thing, and space. What about putting together a business plan that makes sense, where you actually start selling the product that's made in a consignment shop basis, to help fund the whole organization as a maybe logical next step for cash flow? And just put in a business plan, and we have great bankers in the room that can probably help you do that, so.
And the money from classes and
And
things
classes,
like
but-
that.
But have a consignment shop of, so you're getting the stuff out the door, let's see the finished product, so that you have, and that just will bring in more people. And donation, I'm just saying, there's something there, so for cash flow, a consignment kind of shop, if you get the space. But it may be a chicken and the egg, that may help pay for the space.
Right, this is the chicken
All right,
part.
can you hang out for a few minutes
Yeah,
after?
absolutely.
Okay, so we always like to ask, I'm aware. I only ignore DJ, I see. So, we like to ask our person to make sure that they can hang out afterwards, so if you didn't get your question answered, you still have questions, please feel free to come bum rush Lisa afterwards with all of that and bombard her. But have the conversation, ask your question, but we will go to Christina for our last question. And we will get this all taken care of, we'll wrap up.
Okay, so this kind of feeds from something you mentioned about, or your comment about, now I feel nervous because of the last one. Feeds off of your comment about like stay-at-home moms and stuff, but, and a thing that happened, or that we talked about a couple weeks ago in one of these, but have you considered like creating like boxes of craftable things and getting them in the hands of like influencers that are popular in this area, so they could say, hey, I got this box of random things from my friends at Creative
Como
Cycle.
CraftCycle.
Okay, Como
Yeah,
CraftCycle,
Como
sorry.
CraftCycle.
Um,
Yeah.
And then like that kind of feeds into people being aware of your.
I like that idea. We do have kits that are available. We've sold them at like Zipper and Earth Day and Art in the Park and some other.
Yeah.
And we're hoping that by March, when we have a show at the Art League, we have a vending machine that will be operational with kits in it, and that has things like little collage kits and little sewing things and stuff like
I
that.
was
But
thinking if
I
it's
like
an
that
influencer
idea.
that's
Yeah.
really popular around here, then they
Yeah.
can come visit your store, things like
Yeah,
that.
I
Christina
like
can find their addresses for.
I like that.
All right, everybody,
Awesome.
thank you for coming,
Thank you
Lisa.
so
Thank
much.
you. Thanks everybody for being here, and we will see you next Wednesday. We appreciate your attendance. Come on back, bring a friend.